Welcome everyone to episode 2 of this how-to series where we're going to code a heist script for QBCore and ESX. Just a quick note, this is more of an intermediate level, so I will expect that some of you know at least the basics of Lua programming or FiveM scripting, but you probably might not need too much knowledge to follow along. Support is available in the Discord link below. All the files, necessary links and so on is easily accessible there. There's also a forum type channel for support specifically for this series, so please do find us there. Right, I have done some things since the previous episode. I have taken our little script plan and worked it into a little checklist, if you will. So for stage 0.5 we have some requirements, right? To initiate this stage we'll have a minimum police count and possibly an item specifically to talk to the NPC. So I think what we'll most likely be working on is the minimum police count, because that'll be the most tedious part of it. Right. We also have some general checklist items and small tasks like an install file, which we'll write at the end or during the process so that we can keep track of the things we have to change within our server script to allow our script to work. Now, the last thing we did was work on the police count variable. Right? Now, this should be a script local, and here we have to do that. So default it or initialize it to 0. Whenever we initiate this callback, we will set police count. Okay. What I've been thinking is possibly in our shared files is something I want to do. I want to have a data center, and it might make sense as we code it. DC will be my abbreviation for data center, so it'll be data center or open brackets. So let's just write it out. Data center, and then we'll access the code in our client main. So we'll never have to call for the police count like with a callback. All we'll do is in our server we will most likely have a thread running to check the amount of police on duty, and then, sorry, just right at the top, we'll have local DC is equal to data center. Okay, and police on duty we'll take to our data center. So data center dot police on duty is equal to 0. So these will theoretically or basically be global variables that are accessible to the client as well as the server. And the way we'll script it is that the server will alter these variables, but the client will only ever be able to access them and not write them. So client may only read, whereas the server will be able to read and write. I hope that makes it clear. The reason I did this assignment is so that instead of having to type data center all the time, we just do DC. So get police on duty would be a function, and instead of return, we will say DC dot police on duty is equal to count. So then it'll set our data center's police on duty to count, which we will get by running a function. This function we will run in our thread, right? So we will wait how long, maybe every minute, so 60 times 1000, 1000 being 1000 milliseconds, which is 1 second, and 60 times 1 second is a minute. So we will wait a minute and then get police on duty. Okay, going to our functions, we look at police or get police on duty. This is where we'll need server or core functionalities, right? Heading to our QB target, well, it says QB target at the top, but it's QBCore documentation. We'll go to what? Core. QB-core. Nothing like that. This is the core things. Okay, jobs. These are shared scripts, shared exports. Add job, no. Add item. That's when we'll give items, but player data is what we want. Check player data. Okay. Okay, no. Server event, server functions. Let's look at server functions. Get players, plural. Why? Because we need to get all of the players. Here we go. Access the table of all active players on the server, which is a preferred function to the above function. Well, this is a deprecated method. Fair enough. So let's copy that and plop it in here. But what are we going to do? We're going to say if config dot framework, you know what? You'll call it c.framework is QB, then we do some things. So in our variables, we'll have another one, local c is equal to config. So then going to functions, else if c.framework is ESX, then end. Right. Now, if our framework is set to QB, we will run this function. We don't declare it, we just run it. And we'll have a local layers, I guess, because it returns qbcore.players. Okay, and we'll have to sift through it with a for loop. And we will do the same with ESX. Now, during this entire process, I don't want to plan too much ahead because I also want to figure some things out myself during the process. That way you have the opportunity to see how to problem solve and how to find solutions on your own, utilizing your own brain, number one, and number two, documentation that are available by purely Googling. Right. So get players, they have a similar function. Let's see, as our version, this function has been deprecated and removed. So it'll just call the native. Aha. Now for ESX, it might be a bit more difficult. Let's see. This function returns the current player job object. Okay. Get accounts, this is bank account, so that won't work. Get group. I'm not too familiar with the framework, so I'm not sure what groups are. Maybe it's something like gangs, or if you're doing like job groups. Get jobs returns all known jobs along with their grades. That's not what we want. Get players. So what is the alternative to this? How come they don't give us an alternative to using that? Get player from ID. Does job exist? No. Create a pickup, clear timeout command, get extended players. Okay, this function returns an array of all users. You can use this function to filter players to find specific types of people, such as police or admins. Okay. So this is quite valuable. Here they give an item to all police. So we'll copy that and we will paste it. Right. So if our framework is ESX, then we basically specify that our table of players is equal to ESX.getExtendedPlayers, which is a function within ESExtended, taking in the job and police. So we are looking for players with a specific job, and we specify the job as police. Okay. And then they say for all of the players in this table that are police, we give items. Right, however, we want to do something different. We want to say something, let's just look at this real quick, xplayer dot whatever, let's just do that. If xplayer dot, maybe there's an on duty function, but what I want to do is if player on duty, then something end, then count plus equals 1. So what the plus equals 1 does is it just adds 1 to count. That's all it does. And we will have a similar loop for QBCore. However, this will be called player and not X players, or players and not X players. Okay. Now, let us see. X players dot get job, ID, name, label, grade, grade name, grade label, grade salary, skin, and skin. Get meta. Okay. Right. In my limited experience with ESX, I'm not entirely sure how the job system works, so I don't know if ESX players have an on-duty and off-duty system. I know QBCore does. So for the time being, we'll just assume that ESX does not have an on-duty system, and I may or may not be wrong. I don't want to waste time looking for an answer for it. So to not waste time, what I'm gonna do is basically just comment that out. So for every player that exists in the table, we'll just add one to count, right? And that'll be the number of actual police within that. Let's just save that. Let's quickly go to our config, because yes, we set up 3 police jobs. So we might have multiple for loops to complete. We might have to say that for all, and we will just call it jobs. Let's call it job, right? Maybe we do I equals 1 for all in config. Let's just call it c dot what? C dot police jobs do end. So this will basically run the amount of times of values contained within the table. So for every time we run through it, we do dot police jobs I. The reason we do that is we feed this function the entry of police jobs at location I. So the first time we run through it, we feed it police. The second time we run through it, we'll feed it sheriff. And the third time we run through it, we'll feed it trooper. And then contained within that, right? Let's just delete that because that is unnecessary. And I'll cut that and paste it in there. Okay, so what'll happen is the first time it runs through, it'll feed it police. So it'll get all the players with the police job. And then through all of those players, it'll count them, okay? Then the third loop, it'll count all the troopers and then all the sheriffs or whatever the order of them might be. Right, the purpose of the hash is getting the length of this table, which would be 3. So it'll loop 3 times. Doing something similar for QBCore. Just do that, and actually, why am I not just copying it? Why am I rewriting it? Trying to reinvent the wheel here, bruh. Really stupid. Okay. That's not what I wanted to do, but okay then. Not what I wanted to do. There we go. Okay, if it's QBCore, it'll do the same. Go through the police jobs. Actually, no, it'll get all of the players, and then within this loop, we'll find all of that. So we'll need this loop, yes, and no stuff like that. So for each player in the list, we'll check whether or not he has one of those, in this case 3 jobs, and if he has one of those 3 jobs, we'll do something. Right, we'll say if players dot player data dot job is equal to c dot police jobs I, and player or player data. Well, in this case, I could call it player. Player data dot. Let's see. I think in this case, I want to use this tutorial script. I don't know if one exists for ESX. I'm actually not sure. I'll have a look around, but I know there's one for QBCore, and that's what we'll use. Player data, character info, gender. I want what? Duty. So job type, job name, yes. Job dot on duty. Job dot name, and we'll just copy that. Paste it. Job dot on duty. Does caps matter? No. Right. So if the player's job name is equal to one of those 3 jobs, and the player is on duty, then we add 1 to the count. And that should be it. So every minute this should run, and it'll save the count to police on duty. Very simple. Right. It'll go to the data center, and then within our client, we don't need this callback anymore. Variables, we don't need that anymore. Right, I guess we can go to events, and we could register net event, and we could probably call it _dh client, because it is a client event, and we'll call it trigger Heist, and we'll add an event handler for trigger Heist. Function end. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to trigger a server event. Why? Because I want to tell the server that we triggered the heist. So there will be a server event as well as a client event. Okay, so we'll just repeat the process for our servers. So register server event, and we'll add an event handler. Okay. That should be that. The reason I want to do that is if we look here, I want to trigger the heist start, and when the heist is triggered, other players can't trigger the heist, and then there will be a countdown to complete the heist, because you don't want 10 people going to the NPC and at the same time doing a heist. That would make absolutely no sense. And therefore we'll do it this way. So maybe in data center dot heist triggered is false. Okay. And possibly data dot heist owner null, or just that. Heist owner could possibly be the player's identifier, and the reason for that being that the client might ask things like, am I the heist owner? Can I actually interact with this thing? So that is a possibility. You know, things like opening the doors specifically. I don't know. We will see, we'll get to that. But yeah, trigger heist. So maybe we do a check if data center dot heist triggered. If the heist is already triggered, then return end, and we might actually send a nice little notification being like, you know, notify heist already active, you know. And obviously in our variables we need to declare it. Our data center DC. Right. So it doesn't seem like we've done much this session, but we'll test this, what do you call it? This function, get police on duty, and our thread in the next round. Right. So this is our little thread. It's very small. Get police on duty. Super simple. Functions. That just does that. So super simple, super easy. We'll test it in the next episode, and we will probably do this in our threads. If c dot enable debug, then print end. So we will print, what are we gonna print? 2 for green, I believe. Debug space, no, first we make text white again, police on duty space, and we concatenate a toString. Why? Because we don't want to put a number in it, we want the number to be a string. DC dot police on duty. Fantastic. So every minute it'll show us the police on duty, and then we can test it. Awesome sauce. Right. Thank you so much for following along. I do hope you enjoyed this series. If you need any support related to the script specifically, there is a forum channel in the Discord specifically for this series. The Discord is linked in the description. imagiNix Studios. Yeah, I really hope you guys find this tutorial series valuable, and I do hope you enjoy it. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next episode.